Zhang had just returned from the forest and was emotionless as he saw his grandfather dead. His grandfather was cut in half. That's how he was brutally murdered. Looking at the body, tears won't come. He doesn't feel any sadness either. He was the only family I had. How terrible of a human am I? Back then, Zhang just returned home and proudly showing his grandfather that he got a spirit connection herb. You're back. Good work. I looked in the eastern parts, as you said, and that's where I found it. Zhang proudly said while showing off the herb. He then shares that he saw a fox den beside where he found the herb. The mother fox is not present, only the babies. Hearing this, the grandfather immediately asked, "So, did you kill the babies?" "Why would I? The mother would be sad if she came back to see all her babies had been killed." Hearing this, the grandfather felt relieved. "Let's put this away and have dinner." Then he immediately turned serious. "Zhang, can you promise Grandpa something?" Zhang then asks what promise. "The true nature that you hide within yourself. Don't ever reveal it to anyone." "I'm sorry, Grandpa." This time, he decided to fully unleash the evil within his heart. He immediately picked up a sickle. "I don't think I can keep that promise." Zhongyang country. The sound of thick wooden bars on the carriage wheels could be heard. Prisoners with their hands and feet bound were seen in the wooden cages. A large crowd gathered in the marketplace and a long procession was passing through the center of the village street. The villagers' mood was extremely grim as they watched the procession. The procession continued for a while. "Die, you swines." A government official watched them from an inn's second-floor window. He glanced at a certain cage. Unlike the other prisoners, there was one locked up alone. The prisoner's chest and abdomen were stained red. "He's young and must be about the same age as the young master," he said while sipping his tea. The man who had been observing him spoke. "We shouldn't underestimate him just because he's young. He's probably the worst out of all the prisoners. Well, I assume that's why he got a whole carriage to himself. You'll be surprised if I told you how many people he killed with a scythe. People call him the scythe killer demon." Then, the man changed the subject. "What kind of request did you have this time?" "I need to hire someone. Someone young. Someone no one would care about if he were to die." Thud. Before the government official could finish speaking, a stone flew and struck the head of the boy inside the wooden cage. The surroundings became noisy. However, the boy showed no signs of movement or groans of pain. "That young boy is quite a unique one. Does he not feel pain? His head is like that. Yet how?" This sight caught the government official's attention as well. As the flowing blood soaked his head, the government official was staring at the young prisoner with an extremely shocked expression. Just then, the boy tilted his head upward as if it was bothersome. This revealed his face that had been obscured by his hair. Instantly, exclamations of surprise escaped the nearby onlookers' mouths. The government official was the same. "He's pretty enough to be mistaken as a woman, killing people with such a pretty face." Just then, the government official stood up from his seat. "I don't have a request for you anymore." "What? You called me here." "Hey!" the man called out as the government official walked down the stairs. As he walked out of the entrance of the inn, he glanced at the cage. Found him, he thought after looking at the prisoner. He's the perfect candidate. In the inner castle of Zhongyang Country Golden Jade Hall, most of the imprisoned criminals were asleep. Amidst them, there was only one person who wasn't asleep. Zhang was staring blankly at the wall. "I was too rash. That bastard." He was reminded of the person whom he believed killed his grandfather. "I was wondering who was following us, but to think it was some kid who no one knows of. He was a monster. I finally managed to find the one who killed my grandfather, but he was different from the others. He defeated me before I could even do anything. Even if I were to fight him again, the result would be the same. I cannot think of a way to kill him." As his consciousness gradually faded, Zhang thought he was going to die like this, but to think it was some kid no one knows of. Those words echo in his head. However, when he woke up again, he found himself back in the dungeon. Although he miraculously survived, he was unable to avenge his grandfather. From the man, he learned of the existence of martial arts. "If I could master martial arts, maybe I could defeat him, but do I still have a chance?" As he pondered his next move, thick fog reached his feet. Zhang's eyes narrowed. "Smoke? Is there a fire?" "No, it's a different smell." Just then, a thick fog filled the cell. Familiar with medicinal herbs from childhood, he instantly identified the components: lizard's tail, purple parsnip, valerian root, and birthroot, ingredients for sleeping incense. Moments later, he slowly closed his eyes. Meanwhile, a figure came straight to his cell. The man raised his hand and unlocked the shackles on his feet. Just as the person was about to take him away, Zhang suddenly opened his eyes and, seizing the moment of shock, kicked him hard, then frantically ran towards the outside of the cell. "I don't know what's happening, but this is my chance." I was able to stay awake thanks to how badly the herbs were combined. However, in the next second, a strong numbness swept over his body. The man quickly pointed a few fingers at Zhang. "I've gone for your pressure points. You won't be able to move anymore." Then, he was thrown back into the cell. "A martial artist. Is it perhaps the one who killed my grandfather?" When Zhang saw the newcomer's face, he couldn't help but feel suspicious. "No, they're similar in appearance, but that bastard had several scars over his left eye." Suddenly, a man wearing a bamboo hat slowly walked up. "Guard Cam, is it him?" "Young master, I told you to wait outside." Before Guard Cam could finish speaking, the man wearing a bamboo hat interrupted. "Is it him? Prop him up so that I can see his face." "And a chair." "Yes, young master." Zhang, who is immobilized by acupuncture, watches them silently. Just then, Guard Cam grabbed his hair and forced him to sit. "You're right, he looks exactly like me. When the young master lifted the bamboo hat, Zhang showed a shocked expression. This person looked exactly like him. For someone who looks exactly like me to appear in this situation, could there be anything more fateful than this? Seems like you're just as surprised. Zhang was astounded to the point of disbelief at the resemblance, as if they were twins. I heard you were on death row, drawn and quartered in 2 days. Zhang remained still momentarily before replying. That's right, there really was such a strange coincidence in the world. We share the same face, but our fates are utterly different. I am a young master, and you are a death row inmate. Zhang looked at him directly, confused about what he meant. However, I will give you a very rare chance. A chance to become the 3rd young master of the Great Mock Sword Manor. A chance to become my double, Mok Jiangwon. Hearing this, Zhang felt a glimpse of hope. A chance? It won't be difficult, and you just need to enjoy the delicacies and beauties in the villa. You'll be able to enjoy all the things you've never had the privilege of so far, and after it's done, you will be given endless wealth, so that you can go wherever you want as a free man. If you want to do it, eat this, Mok Jiangwon said while guard Cam showed Zhang the pill. Is it poison? Did you think that we'd just trust you blindly when you're a prisoner? If you manage to complete the job, I will give you the antidote. So, what will you do? Seeing the pill placed to his mouth, Zhang knew his opportunity had arrived and opened his mouth without hesitation. Seeing Zhang swallow the poison, Mok Jiangwon's face revealed a sinister smile. Now, will you really give me that chance? Hearing this, Mok Jiangwon smiled. A wise choice. He then ordered guard Cam to release Zhang's acupoints and locks. Guard Cam did as ordered and undo Zhang's pressure point seal and unlocked the wooden restraints binding Zhang's hands. Little did he know, he would soon pay with his life for this decision. Guard Cam approached the entrance of the prison and quietly said, I'll lead the way. You, follow behind me. Young master, please follow behind him. Alright, since the boy had taken the poison pill, he wouldn't be able to escape, but it was a precautionary measure. If guard Cam led the way and the young master watched from behind, how could the fellow escape? Even if he was a death row inmate, he was no different from a child compared to those who had learned martial arts. Just as guard Cam was about to open the prison door and leave, he turned his head. We're clear. Please be careful following me. However, an unbelievable scene unfolded before his eyes. As they walked out of the cell, Zhang seized the moment of Mok Jiangwon's unpreparedness and directly snapped his neck 180 degrees. Totally taken aback, guard Cam is clenching his jaw. Zhang then dropped Mok Jiangwon on the floor with a shocked expression. His neck completely twisted and turned around. It had happened so suddenly that guard Cam was momentarily at a loss for words. Zhang nonchalantly said, What now, guard Cam? The fake's dead now. Right before the slaughtering scythe demon was arrested, cry for help can be heard from afar. Run, help! Zhang is grabbing a decapitated head of a person. This is fun, he thought while chasing and killing people. I killed everyone that I thought might be related to the death of my grandfather. The emotion I felt while killing dozens of people was joy. He then remembered what his grandfather said. Don't ever reveal to anyone the true nature that you hide within yourself. My true nature. What kind of facial expression did I have while killing all these people? Am I smiling? Is this the true nature my grandfather was referring to? Slaughtering scythe demon. The man shouted as Zhang walked closer. Is my true nature evil? I don't know. I'm just going to kill for now, he thought while grinning and raising his scythe. Just then, his body was suddenly kicked away. He felt a strong impact from the kick. He then coughed from the pain, which caught the attention of the newcomer. You're alive? That's impressive. Zhang looked at the man and thought, this bastard, he's dangerous. His instincts told him that this newcomer was the murderer of his grandfather. Yet, just from the formidable presence emanating from the man, he was rendered immobile. Looks like you haven't even learned martial arts. Before he could react, the man appeared in front of him in an instant, grabbed his neck. He's fast. He was standing far from me, but he closed the distance in just a second. Is he even human? Zhang thought as he is struggling to break free from the man's grip. Interesting. I was wondering who was following us, but to think it was some kid who's not even trained in martial arts. He then pierced his sword through Zhang's body. Zhang immediately coughs blood. He then pulled the sword. A kid that can survive my ultimate attack despite not being trained in martial arts. He then pierced Zhang with the sword again. It'd be best to kill you now. You shouldn't have gone around killing people. You ended up shortening your own lifespan. You should have just lived a quiet life. I was defeated so easily. After finally finding the person who killed my grandfather, as his consciousness gradually faded, Zhang thought he was going to die like this. I did not die, but I will soon be killed. If I were given another chance, I would not let go of it. Looking at Mok Jiangwon's corpse on the ground, it was already too late. Zhang revealed an ominous smile. What now, guard Cam? The imposter's dead now. Quickly regaining guard Cam's senses, he grabbed Zhang by the neck and slamming him against the wall. Insane bastard, you actually killed the young master. Do you want to die? Zhang then revealed a sinister smile. He knew well that the double must bear all the dangers in place of the real person. If he went with them, his death was indeed inevitable. Guard Cam furrowed his brows. He was grabbing the boy's neck, but there were no signs of distress. Rather, the boy was speaking perfectly fine. Didn't you consider the possibility that I might kill you? Actually, you don't really want to kill me, otherwise you would have done it already. Upon hearing Zhang's words, the guard, enraged and embarrassed, lifted his hand and violently threw him to the ground, his sword poised to stab Zhang. Do you think I really don't dare to kill you? Yet Zhang remained remained calm and composed, unconcerned, and instead said, "Is that necessary? Why wouldn't it be?" Guard Cam asked in a violent voice. "I took the poison you gave me. I can't live without the antidote. That means I have no choice but to obey you. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you. The third young master of the Mock Sword Manor is now your loyal dog. So you mean to tell me I should betray the young master and use you as my puppet?" Hearing this, Zhang smiled. The loyal guard was shaken by Zhang's words. He snorted coldly, raised its arm and thrust his sword into the ground, barely missing Zhang's head. He then pulled his sword. "From now on, you are the legitimate Mock Jiangwon," and thus began Zhang's plan for revenge. Not long after, inside the Mock Sword Manor, the guard warned Zhang, "Stay in your room and don't leave without permission." "Then it's not different from being a double, is it? You're in no position to be asking questions when you've chosen to be a puppet instead of a double. If you get caught, you will not receive the antidote." Then Guard Cam moved closer to him. "If you disobey me or try any tricks, I will kill you immediately." Zhang then smiled. "Alright." Saying this, Guard Cam casually threw an antidote to Zhang. "Take one every 24 hours, or you will die from the poison." In the afternoon, Zhang took the antidote, feeling very fortunate to have survived being stabbed in the chest. "Perhaps this is all Grandpa's doing to stop me from dying so early. Well, I don't intend on dying until I avenge you, so don't worry, Grandpa," Zhang thought while looking out the window. As for the person who wanted him dead, they probably thought he was already gone. Now, he could legitimately impersonate Mock Jiangwon in the Mock Sword Manor, learning martial arts to avenge his grandfather. "I will then find the bastard who killed my grandfather and kill him the same way he killed my grandfather." The thought of this made Zhang happy. Morning arrives. Zhang is inside his room having his meal. "I miraculously managed to avoid death, and I did get a chance to learn martial arts," Zhang thought to himself. He then glances at the door. To prevent Zhang from playing tricks, Guard Cam specifically sent his disciple, Go-chan, to monitor him. When Go-chan learned that Zhang had killed Mock Jiangwon, he was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped, but he had no choice but to follow his senior brother's arrangement and continue with the plan. Meanwhile, Guard Cam also felt a headache coming on. "I'll come up with a different plan in the meantime and we'll throw him out and side with someone else." Hearing this, Go-chan curiously asked, "Didn't you say that you fed him poison? It'll be hard for him to disobey us. The reason we chose third young master in the first place because..." Before he could continue, Guard Cam interrupted. He's not the kind of person to be obedient. As a death row inmate, not only had Zhang killed Mock Jiangwon in such circumstances, but he also claimed to replace him. Keeping such a person even one more day was a risk. He's dangerous. Getting involved with him will do us no good, Guard Cam added as he walked down the stairs. Go-chan was left there speechless. Go-chan, however, thought Guard Cam was getting cowardly. A kid who doesn't know martial arts isn't that scary. Zhang also spent the past few days reflecting on everything that had happened. Guard Cam hadn't told him the real reason they needed a double, just left Go-chan to watch and left. The Great Mock Sword Manor wasn't a place so dangerous as to require a double, so Zhang guessed they would only use him under specific circumstances. And with no action for so long, perhaps Guard Cam was already considering changing masters secretly. Within moments, Zhang had mostly figured out Guard Cam's intentions. At that moment, Go-chan, who was guarding the door, was already dozing off. Zhang directly pushed open the room door. Zhang told him that he just wants some fresh air and invited him to come along since he have a question to ask Go-chan. Go-chan immediately warned, "If you don't want to die, stay in the room." Zhang scoffed, "As long as you don't tell, no one will know we went out." Seeing him openly challenging him, Go-chan pressed Zhang against the wall. "You seem to have forgotten your place. Nothing good will come out of annoying me, so go the hell back inside." Zhang looked at him calmly. "You're definitely weaker than Guard Cam." The next second, Zhang placed his hand on Go-chan's shoulder, mimicked Guard Cam's move, and threw Go-chan over his shoulder, pressing him on the floor, then seal several of Go-chan's acupoints. "My body won't move? Could it be seal my pressure points?" Go-chan looked at Zhang in disbelief and thought to himself, "This bastard, was he hiding the fact that he learned martial arts?" Zhang showed surprised expression. He had pressed the acupoints just as Guard Cam had, yet Go-chan could still move. Immediately, he pressed several points on Go-chan's back again. At that moment, Go-chan finally realized this person had learned Guard Cam's martial arts just by witnessing it once. Guard Cam was right. This guy is dangerous. Seeing that he was no match for Zhang, Go-chan once again used poison as a threat. "Aren't you afraid of bleeding from all orifices and dying in agony?" But Zhang was unaffected, merely biting his finger and feeding the blood into Go-chan's mouth. Go-chan panicked completely, rolling back and forth on the ground trying to spit out the poisoned blood, but it was too late. At the same time, Zhang kicked him and spoke again. "I've been picking herbs with my grandfather since I was young and have tasted all kinds of poisons. Ordinary poisons are useless against me. Even my blood contains a strong poison, so I don't need the neutralizer. I said I wanted to ask you a question, right? Can you tell me about the Mock Sword Manor? By the way, I'm the only one who can neutralize the poison of my blood. I'm sure you'll be a lot of help to me." Hearing this, Go-chan is visibly scared and thought, he's a demon. At the Mock Sword Manor main hall, it turned out that the Lord of Mock Sword Manor, Mock Inden, had been seriously ill for a long time, and despite the doctor's best efforts, even the cause of the illness was undiagnosed. Since the Lord Lord had not decided on an heir. The four sons were brewing a fratricidal storm. If the manor master dies, the brothers will spill blood trying to obtain the position. The eldest son, Makyango, not only indulged in debauchery but also had a violent temperament, making him the most incompetent among the brothers. The second son, Mak Yunpian, was cunning and ruthless in achieving his goals. The first lady, favoring only her eldest son to ascend as the lord. Who knows what she'll do to secure that position for him? Lady Suk, manor master's first wife, asked, "How's the manor master?" The doctor is unsure what to answer. Thus Lady Suk repeats her question. "I asked how he is. I apologize. My knowledge is lacking. I cannot figure out a treatment for him. I can only call it very strange." Hearing this, Lady Suk is disappointed, as I expected. Thus, she mentioned that there is no option other than shamanistic arts, ostensibly to exorcise demons for the manor master. Hearing this, the doctor immediately disagrees. Shamanism is nothing more than a false belief. How could you resort to such a? Lady Suk then interrupted. Then should I just do nothing until my husband dies? Despite the doctor's strong objections, it was to no avail. I don't want to hear it any longer. I've already called a shaman who deals with such unidentified illness, so you are excused. Later, the first lady even ordered that the lord's room be sealed off, allowing no one to approach. We will have the shaman deal with the manor master's illness, so don't let anyone into the main hall. Not a single soul. That is the current situation of the Mock Sword Manor. After learning of these circumstances, Zhang called on Go-chan, planning to meet the manor master. At the same time, the entire plan of the third young master, Mok Jaewoon, was fully exposed to him. The real Mok Jaewoon wanted the double to appear, letting the brothers kill each other, and then he would reap the benefits. As long as the brothers died, he could emerge quietly and take control, also known as a winning by default plan. This way, regardless of who lives, it becomes such that the two brothers tried to kill each other and they would be eliminated as heirs. Then, after Mok Jaewoon appears perfectly fine, he would easily gain the upper hand. Unfortunately, Zhang's arrival became the biggest variable in this plan. But young master, why are you trying to go to the manor master? Go-chan asked curiously. From what I heard, the life and death of the manor master is related to my life. That's why I'm trying to visit. Zhang answered while tearing the paper with a written plan. He then threw the paper into the air. But if guard Cam finds out that you're moving? Before Go-chan finished, Zhang interrupted with an ominous smile. You'll keep it a secret from him? Thanks, guard Go-chan. Just then, Lady Suk is waiting for someone. Walking figure can be seen from afar. So, can I see the manor master now? This is Shaman Myo Shin, the shaman hired by Lady Suk. I've heard that Shaman Myo is miraculous, so I will trust you once. Shaman Myo then told Lady Suk to ask everyone within 30 paces of the main building to leave. Otherwise, it'll be bad luck. I have already taken those steps. Other than the guard who protects the entrance, they will all leave. The shaman then looks at Lady Suk. You also need to take your leave, madam. You haven't forgotten what I've asked, right? Of course, Shaman Myo answered immediately. The manor master's seal and secret manual. Hearing this, Lady Suk is satisfied. If you find those, I will give you 300 silver coins immediately. Thank you, madam. Lady Suk then ordered all the servants, all of you, leave until I say otherwise. Then, she also prepared to leave the main hall. On her way out, someone training caught her attention. Displeased can be seen all over her face. It turns out that the one training is the fourth son, Mok Yu-chun, the child of a geisha. She immediately turned around and thought to herself, even if I can understand fooling around with a geisha, giving the manor master position to that lowly blood is something I can't forgive. Then she exited the hall. Meanwhile, on their way to the lord's room, they passed the training ground and happened to see the fourth son, Mok Yu-chun, practicing martial arts. Although he was born to the lord and a geisha, he was diligent, skilled in martial arts, and deeply favored by the lord. However, this was something the first lady absolutely could not tolerate. Seeing Mok Yu-chun's way of practicing, Zhang became very interested in him. He casually asked Go-chan, if I learn martial arts, could I kill guard Cam? Receiving no response, Zhang repeated the question. Hearing this question, Go-chan trembled inwardly, thinking, has he realized that we're planning to abandon him? This guy is not only smart but practically a schemer. He swallowed and explained to Zhang, the foundation of learning martial arts is the cultivation of internal strength. Hearing this, Zhang became more interested and asked Go-chan to elaborate more. Internal strength means allowing the energy of nature to circulate within the body through breathing techniques, eventually forming inner chi. The more inner chi accumulated, the stronger the martial power. However, inner chi cannot be developed overnight. A first-rate expert like Guard Cam has at least half a cycle of chi accumulation, so it's very difficult for you to surpass him in the short term. So, it'll be difficult to do in a short period of time, Zhang said after listening to Go-chan's explanation. At this point, Go-chan hadn't fully explained because there is also an optimal period for cultivating internal strength. After the age of 7 or 8, the body accumulates too much impure energy, making it impossible to gather internal strength even with practice. That is to say, Zhang would never be able to surpass Guard Cam in his lifetime. Seeing Go-chan looking smug, Zhang had already guessed his thoughts and turned to touch his cheek, softly saying, your eyes sure do look greedy. It makes me want to gouge them out. However, Zhang did not pursue this further and instead asked cheerfully, how about you become my man from now on? Out of fear, Go-chan agrees. Since Jong couldn't kill Guard Cam or persuade him to switch sides, he had no better strategy at the moment. Thinking this, he turned his head and asked again, is there any bad blood between Mok Jaeyoung-won and the fourth young master? He learned that 2 years ago, Mok Jaeyoung-won called the fourth young master's mother a whore and got beaten up pretty badly for it. Jong couldn't help but laugh loudly. The fourth young master is quite decent. At least he didn't crush Mok Jaeyoung-won's limbs. Saying this, he then turned and walked towards the Lord's room. At that moment, back in the Manor Master's room, Shaman Myo was wrapping the entire room with red threads and copper coins while the Manor Master lay on the bed unresponsive, with strange black lines spreading outward from his heart. Although it looked like poisoning, it was actually the result of being consumed by evil energy. Fortunately, the Lord had practiced martial arts for many years, which kept him alive until now. Sadly, having been afflicted by evil for too long, even if Shaman Myo had great powers, he only had a 50% chance of saving him. However, Shaman Myo's goal was not to save the Lord, but to complete the task given by the lady. The Lord's life or death was of no concern to him. He held a pen in one hand and drew a ghostly talisman, then chanted loudly a spell while commanding the talisman, and the talisman stuck directly to the Manor Master's chest. A burst of energy surged wildly from the talisman, accompanied by Shaman Myo chanting spells and slapping seals, scattering the evil energy on the Lord's body. Gradually, Manor Master's eyes turned blood red, as if he was about to be possessed by something, and even Shaman Myo was blown away, with the situation nearly spiraling out of control. Just then, Jong pushed open the door and said with a smile, "I've come to pay my respects. I give you my greetings, father." The sudden intrusion interrupted Shaman Myo's casting, and before he could identify the intruder, he cried out, "Get out now, or the Lord will be in mortal danger." But Jong ignored him, busying himself with checking on the Lord. Shaman Myo desperately begged, "Please get out. If things go wrong." At this moment, the evil energy on the Lord's body surged, and the strange power possessing him grew stronger, completely losing control. The Lord's body twisted and floated in the air. In desperation, Shaman Myo quickly asked Jong and Go-chan to help hold down the Lord. Looking at the Manor Master, Go-chan and Jong are unsure of what to do. "Hurry, hold him down," Shaman Myo instructed. The shaman placed another talisman on the Lord's forehead, continuously muttering under his breath. However, the evil energy on the Lord grew stronger, and the small talisman could not suppress it. The eerie aura began to travel along the Lord's arm toward Go-chan. At this critical moment, Jong made a decisive move and chopped off the Manor Master's hand. This action stunned everyone present. Seeing the eerie aura returning to the Manor Master, Jong showed an ominous smile, then, proceeding to attack again, decapitating the Manor Master's arm. Seeing this, Go-chan thought, "This crazy bastard just cut off the Manor Master's arm." Shaman Myo quickly raised his hand, sticking another talisman on the severed limb, barely stabilizing the situation. But by then, Shaman Myo was already thinking of escaping. Just as he was preparing to pack up and flee, a long sword was already placed at his neck. Jong had seen through his little scheme from the start. Go-chan wanted to say something, but was stopped by Jong. "Is this the reason the Lord has been bedridden?" Jong asked indifferently. The shaman, now terrified by Jong's actions, could only stammer out excuses. "The Lord is possessed by something strange, and the situation is far from over. If we waste more time, he could die at any moment." However, Jong's face remained indifferent. The shaman shivered and tentatively asked, "Do you also wish for the Lord to die?" When Jong heard the word "also," he instantly understood everything. Was it the lady who instructed you to do this? Knowing he could no longer hide the truth, the shaman confessed everything. After hearing the truth, Go-chan wiped a cold sweat, thinking to himself, if the eldest son takes the Lord's position, one can only imagine what will become of him. To secure his own future, Go-chan hurriedly explained to Jong, "We must save the Lord. If the Lord dies, the lady will surely pin the blame on you." The shaman also chimed in, saying he had a way to save the Lord. However, at this moment, Jong fell into deep thought. Soon, Jong revealed a smile. He did not ask the shaman to save the Lord, but instead instructed him to continue inquiring about the whereabouts of the official seal and the secret manual. Everyone was terrified by his decision, but Jong offered no explanation. Out of options, the shaman took out a puppet, saying, "If the evil spirit continues to erode the Lord, he will truly die. This puppet can take the Lord's place." After saying this, the shaman tied the puppet and the severed arm together, then slapped a seal and chanted a spell. The evil spirit attached to the severed arm materialized into a hand that tightly grasped the puppet. Meanwhile, the Lord let out a painful scream. Knowing that the evil energy emitted by the evil spirit was too strong, the shaman realized that if he continued, the seal would be broken, and the third young master would definitely not spare him. Thinking this, the shaman made a decisive decision to kill two birds with one stone. He used the excuse that outsiders should not stay here to send Go-chan away first, then murmured a few more words, and under his control, the Lord slowly revealed the hiding place of the secret manual and the official seal, past the front stone door in an underground chamber under the medicinal hall. As soon as the words were spoken, the puppet shattered under the erosion of the evil energy. The shaman quickly shouted to Jong, "Cut the red thread quickly. The evil spirit is trying to take over the Manor Master's body." However, As the red thread was severed, the evil spirit rapidly crawled along the ground and climbed toward Zhang. Zhang glanced at the shaman. At this moment, the shaman revealed a sinister smile. As the ghostly hand enveloped Zhang's body, he pressed a talisman on Zhang's forehead. In this way, he completed the lady's mission and could also pin the blame on Zhang. However, what the shaman did not know was that this action completely unleashed the purest evil thoughts hidden deep within Zhang. The deceived evil spirit, venting all its anger on Zhang, tried to completely take over his body. At the same time, Zhang fell into an illusion. He was in a familiar place, the watering hole he always visits. A peaceful mountain. He knows this place well. Since it's a place he always visits, he wouldn't be able to forget even if he wanted to. He fetches water like he used to. However, while walking, he felt a strange feeling. A feeling as if he is forgetting something. Just then, he noticed a fire blazing in the forest, and he was shocked when he realized it was the direction of the house. In a rush, he drops the pail of water and runs hysterically, muttering to himself, "Grandfather, please, please." He runs as fast as he can. When he reached the house, he shouted, calling out to his grandfather. When he saw his grandfather, he was utterly shocked. The scene of his grandfather's tragic death replayed before his eyes. "Wake up, grandfather," he called out while holding the corpse. No, who could have done this? And this time, he cried, his tears heart-wrenching. He finally understood how important his grandfather was to him. After sensing Zhang's inner desire, the evil spirit created a world without regrets for him. Seeing his deceased grandfather standing before him again, Zhang could no longer contain his excitement and hugged his grandfather tightly. "Hey, this old man is gonna fall over. Why are you being like this all of a sudden? I won't lose my grandfather ever again since he is the reason that someone who should have died, is still alive." Zhang thought to himself. Just when the evil spirit thought that Zhang would forever bask in this false happiness, Zhang's expression suddenly changed, and he turned and grabbed towards the evil spirit's head. "You made me angry, daring to mock me with my grandfather's death." The evil spirit wore an incredulous look, unable to understand why Zhang could see through its illusion. "And you seem to have misunderstood something." Zhang sneered. "Did you think my happiness is to revive my grandfather? You should have let me rip apart the bastard that killed my grandfather." Before it could continue to ponder, a bone-chilling cold swept over its body. This was a purity of evil that even spirits would not approach. At that moment, feeling Zhang's overwhelming intent to kill, it was terrified in its heart. Can a living person really possess such emotions? Meanwhile, the grandfather's voice rang in Zhang's mind. "Do you know why I named you Zhang? You are a child that's different from others, but I wished for you to grow up to be kind and righteous. So, I pray that you will continue to grow as a righteous person." Feeling the overwhelming intent to kill, the evil spirit actually detached its arm and turned to flee. By this time, the evil spirit had no idea how long it had been running. Finally, the evil spirit reached the deepest part of Zhang's heart. On a vast meadow, there was only one sealed door. A field? This is the place deep within his consciousness? Then the evil spirit noticed the door. Although it did not know what was behind the door, the evil spirit decided to open it and completely devour Zhang's heart. However, before the evil spirit can open the door, everything around was gradually enveloped by black mist, and the body of the evil spirit was bit by bit consumed by the black mist. It struggled desperately, trying to escape, but it was too late. Amidst its desperate screams, the evil spirit was completely dragged into an endless abyss. Meanwhile, Zhang suddenly opened his eyes, and the evil energy instantly filled the room. Shaman Miao turned around and immediately showed a look of terror. Zhang nonchalantly tore off the talisman from his forehead, and clouds of black mist continuously surged from his palms. Zhang quietly uttered one word, "Demon Monk." The black mist slowly condensed, eventually forming a human figure. Shaman Miao looked on in horror, realizing this was not a mere resentful spirit, but a high-class evil spirit. Before he could react, at Zhang's command, Demon Monk violently attacked him. Although Shaman Miao barely blocked the attack, he was completely terrified by Zhang's action. Zhang was actually able to command an evil spirit. For humans, evil spirits are nothing short of a disaster. However, before he could fully grasp the situation, the evil spirit's hand reached for him again. He was blasted from the Demon Monk's energy. In a panic, Shaman Miao quickly grabbed a precious sword beside him, but against a demon from hell, his figure seemed so insignificant. How could a mere mortal object withstand it? Countless tendrils reached for his body, and Shaman Miao continuously cried out for mercy. But Zhang did not waver, watching everything coldly, devoid of any compassion. Shaman Miao reached out to Zhang, crying out, "If it's because I tricked you." Before he could finish, Zhang interrupted, "No, that's not why. Since you've heard about the official seal and the secret manual, I can't let you live." Just like that, Shaman Miao was dragged into the abyss of endless fear. Only at the last moment did he realize that from the beginning, he was merely Zhang's prey. Moments later, Zhang called out to Go-chan. When he returned to the room, he was utterly shocked, and seeing the terrifying state of Shaman Miao's death, he shivered. Just then, Zhang nonchalantly said, "You can ask questions later. Can you carry the corpse?" Under Zhang's arrangement, Zhang staged the room to look like Shaman Miao went crazy and cut off the Lord's arm and then attempted to kill him. We stumbled upon the scene and put a stop to it. Hearing this, Go-chan was a bit confused and then asked, "Is that your plan on hiding the truth?" "Yes. Is there a problem with that?" But Go-chan worried that such tricks wouldn't deceive the lady. Young master, a half-hearted attempt to concealment will only draw suspicion to you. Was it that obvious? Even if the shaman somehow went crazy and we ended up subduing him, the manor mistress that hired him won't easily accept it. Zhang thinks of a way to make it a bit more believable. Without hesitation, Zhang lifted the sword and plunged it into his own thigh. This act made Go Chan's spine chill. Then Zhang looked at him directly. Is it a bit more believable now? Seeing this, Go Chan hadn't expected Zhang to be so ruthless even to himself. His fear intensified, realizing this was not someone he could afford to provoke. Just then, a figure suddenly appeared. It was Zhang Mianjin from the inner hall of Mocksword Manor. Originally, he and the Lord Mockindan were brothers in arms and had sworn loyalty to the Lord 19 years ago. But now, for the future of Mocksword Manor, he had eerily agreed to the lady's request. Stepping away for a while shouldn't cause any problems. He hadn't expected to return to this scene. He angrily demanded to know what they had done to the Lord. Go Chan hurriedly explained that it was a misunderstanding, while Zhang feigned weakness, about to say something but then collapsed on the floor. Confused, Zhang Mianjin grabbed Go Chan and interrogated him. Go Chan initially wanted to say something but, seeing the sinister smile on Zhang's face, immediately abandoned all thoughts. He understood that Zhang was definitely acting. In the end, he could only explain things according to Zhang's arrangement. Soon after, Zhang lay in the pharmacy of Mocksword Manor, the scent of medicinal herbs around him feeling immensely familiar. Thinking he would soon have the secret manual and the official seal, he felt much relieved, even though these items were just beneath the pharmacy. With the place crowded during the day, Zhang decided to search for the official seal and the secret manual at night. At that moment, Go Chan, his hand bandaged, entered the room and, following Zhang's instructions, retrieved 2 books from Shaman Mio's corpse. One was Master Chu's Summary, original book of the Yin-Yang School, and the other was First Tome of Anomaly. Since the lady had ordered all Shaman Mio's belongings to be burned to destroy evidence, these books were secretly taken by Go Chan before they were destroyed. Go Chan didn't understand why Zhang wanted these 2 books, but Zhang didn't explain, merely pointing out the window. Can you see anything out there? Go Chan looked out the window for a long time, but couldn't spot anything. Unbeknownst to him, a ghostly shadow was floating outside the window, visible only to Zhang. That's why I want to figure it out. Just then, both of them heard noises from the outside. When Zhang thought everything was going smoothly, the lady suddenly visited the pharmacy. Seeing her appear, both Go Chan and Zhang were startled. Go Chan quickly greeted her immediately. Zhang looked at her carefully. The lady, born into a martial Suk clan, was not only highly skilled in martial arts but also more cunning and dangerous than the eldest son, Mok Yango. Even guard Cam reminded Zhang to be extra cautious around her. Just then, Zhang greeted her. He's still sitting on the bed, indicated he was unable to stand due to his leg injury. Go Chan sweated coldly at his actions. He greeted her better than I expected. I'm not here to hear your greeting, which made Zhang confused. Then Lady Suk suddenly punched Zhang in the leg. Zhang and Go Chan were utterly shocked. The intense pain made Zhang involuntarily grunt. Go Chan wanted to intervene, but a sword was suddenly placed at his neck. Don't move, Lady Suk guard said seriously. Lady Suk then looked at Zhang with a smile, instantly realizing that his wound was self-inflicted. She hadn't expected Zhang to go so far as to harm himself to conceal the truth. Although you fooled the inner hall master, you can't fool me. You should know, a powerful shaman would never be backfired by his own spells. Are you trying to fool me with such tricks? With that, Lady Suk slapped Zhang across the face. Zhang's frail body was instantly flung away. Lady Suk shook her hand and continued to press. What exactly did you hear in the room? Zhang was silent for a moment, then suddenly burst into hysterical laughter. The lady thought he had gone mad, but the next second, Zhang's expression turned cold, and he simply said, "Demonic monk." A ghostly shadow suddenly appeared behind him and lunged at the lady. The lady felt something pass over her, while a maid beside her was grabbed by the neck by demonic monk, her whole body floating in the air, desperately struggling. Seeing this, the lady remembered Shaman Mio's terrifying death. Before she could ponder further, Zhang's voice came from behind her. The secret manual and the seal. Aren't those what you need? Then you should be negotiating terms with me, instead of trying to threaten me. At this moment, the lady clearly panicked. She wanted to say something, but Zhang didn't give her a chance. Actually, I don't want the Lord's position, but since you're pressing me so hard, I might just have to tell the 2nd or 4th brother the information about the secret manual and the seal. After all, the 4th brother has a good foundation in martial arts. It would make a nice peace offering to him. These words infuriated the lady so much that her face turned green, but she was helpless against Zhang and could only leave in a fit of rage. Back at her residence, the more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She repeatedly muttered, "How dare he? How dare he?" And her guard tried to calm her down. Calm down? Does it look like I can calm down right now? The usually weak boy had dared to snatch her things right in front of her today. She suspected that Zhang had always been hiding his true nature. Now that I think about it, others have always praised him for being smart. But after his mother died, the family on his mother's side began to lose influence. Perhaps he changed in order to protect himself. Thinking this, she immediately regretted letting her guard down. At that moment, a maid suggested, "Should we kill the 3rd young master before he can try anything?" The lady didn't agree. She feared the secret manual and the seal might end up in someone else's hands, but she didn't want to be led by the nose forever. Thus, she instructed the maid to inform the Phoenix Pavilion that Shaman Myo was dead, and soon this little devil would also not have it easy. At night, in the pharmacy, Jong sat on the floor reading the books left by Shaman Myo. According to the book, a person turns into a vengeful spirit or even an evil spirit after death due to their unresolved resentment. Depending on various factors, evil spirits are classified into different ranks. The first type is called Red Spirit, a spirit bound to a certain location. Its power are limited to causing chills or goosebumps in a person. The second type is Orange Spirit. This rank of evil spirit can possess humans and cause physical discomfort. The third type is Yellow Spirit. These are dangerous spirits that should be exorcised. It is so powerful it can use evil energy to kill. Just then demonic monk show itself. Jong thought to himself, I guess the demonic monk belongs to Yellow Spirit. It is useful for finding doorways to the underground and for scouting, but as seen before, demonic monk could not take action against the lady. It seems whether it can be a threat depends on the target's strength. Jong had tested demonic monk's power on Go-chan and the results were good, but it was still not enough to deal with the lady and guard cam. Therefore, he must find a more powerful evil spirit soon. The fourth type, Green Spirit, a spirit that has lived for decades, can induce chaos, cause hallucinations, and is an extremely dangerous existence. Just then, demonic monk found the entrance to the basement. It seemed like the right time to retrieve the secret manual and the seal. After what felt like a long walk, Jong finally reached the end of the ladder, facing 4 stone doors. The 4th stone door was his target. As he opened the door, he was dumbfounded. It seems like he needs to go even farther in. However, as soon as he stepped into the room, he triggered a trap. A huge rock fell from above, but luckily, he was able to dodge it. I didn't expect there to be traps. Just then, arrows crazily shot towards him. With his agile skills, Jong easily dodged the attack. An arrow was about to pierce his chest, but fortunately, the lamp was pierced instead. But the traps did not stop, and a massive pillar smashed down. Jong leaped up, narrowly avoiding it. The continuous traps made Jong realize that besides the secret manual and seal, there must be something even more important stored here. After navigating countless traps, Jong finally reached the deepest part of the stone chamber. The room was extremely symmetrical, and from the signs of life above, it seemed someone often practiced here. Jong didn't dwell on it. He smoothly found a wooden box on the table, inside which were the sword techniques and mental methods of mock sword manner. Go-chan once informed him that the secret manual was divided into 2, sword techniques and cultivation techniques. He pocketed them without hesitation, but then he thought there might be something else here. At that moment, a strange box caught his attention. It looks unnecessarily heavy and not functional. From the drag marks on the floor, it seemed the box had been deliberately dragged there. When he pushed the box aside, he noticed something on the floor. A floorboard sealed with a yellow talisman was revealed. Without a second thought, he flipped open the floorboard and found another small box underneath, still sealed with a yellow talisman. After pondering for a moment, Jong decided to tear off the yellow talisman. An ominous aura rushed towards him, and even the lantern beside him went out without any wind. Inside the box, there was a book made of human skin. Although it was wrapped with prayer beads, the eerie aura emanating from the book was distinctly palpable. It seems I've found a treasure, Jong thought to himself. Meanwhile, somewhere in Mock Sword Manor, there was the beating of drums and joyful music. Standing in the center was the second young master, Mok Yunpion, who was celebrating because today he had moved one step closer to becoming the lord of the villa, all thanks to the help of one person. That person was the long-missing guard cam. At that moment, inside Mock Sword Manor, the second young master, to win over guard cam, had specially organized a grand banquet for him. Guard cam wore a flattering expression, but he had already guessed the second young master's intentions. After a show of reluctance, he gladly accepted the second young master's overture. After the banquet, the second young master again confirmed with guard cam, "Is it true that Mok Jae-won has lost his martial arts?" To this, guard cam affirmed, "The real Mok Jae-won is dead, and the imposter indeed does not know martial arts." This wasn't really a lie. Besides, if people knew he had failed to protect his master, leading to his master's death, he would not end well. Thus, he decided to pledge his loyalty to the second young master with the life of the imposter Mok Jae-won. However, the second young master did not easily let down his guard. Although that boy was originally useless, now that he has lost his martial arts, he is indeed less of an opponent. Well, I guess I should be grateful since I have someone as talented as you working for me now. But I am still curious, how exactly did he lose his martial arts? Faced with the second young master's skepticism, guard cam was startled, pondering how to respond when the second young master spoke again. "You don't have to worry. Even if this was your negligence, I won't hold you accountable." He tried to alleviate guard cam's concerns, but after all, both were cunning old foxes. How could they easily leave a handle for others? Guard cam bowed again. "I am sorry. I cannot disclose it yet, but I assure you it will not implicate the second young master." Although the second young master verbally expressed his trust, he secretly pondered, guard cam must be an assassin from that infamous place, right? Hearing that place, guard cam's body jolted. He had thought the second young master was just a green kid, but it turned out he had thoroughly investigated him. Instantly, the situation became more delicate. However, the second young master did not let go, instead pressing further. Are these also unspeakable secrets? Frightened, Guard Cam hurriedly denied. Seeing that he was completely under control, the second young master chuckled inwardly. The second young master then decisively ended the conversation, saying no more, just letting Guard Cam leave first. But the matter was not over. The second young master still had great doubts about the information provided by Guard Cam, and immediately ordered his subordinates to clarify Guard Cam's intentions and the real situation of Mok Jae-won. The subordinates were puzzled. Was it just to confirm whether Mok Jae-won had lost his martial arts? The second young master smiled coldly. No, that's no fun. Break an ankle or something while you're at it. Hearing this, the subordinate immediately agrees. Meanwhile, in the basement of the pharmacy, Jong was holding the human skin ancient book for a long time. His fingertips could clearly feel the pulsation coming from it, as if some powerful energy was churning inside. Although it was not a living thing, Jong knew this ancient book was extraordinary. He couldn't wait to undo the prayer bead sealing it. Just then, a black mist rose behind Jong, and the figure of demonic monk gradually appeared. Just as Jong was about to ask what had happened, demonic monk's expression suddenly changed. Just a glance at the human skin ancient book in Jong's hands made demonic monk break into a cold sweat, trembling all over. Seeing this, Jong's face showed excitement. Even demonic monk fears the existence of this book. It seems I really have obtained something incredible. However, he quickly put away this excitement because he had sent demonic monk and Go-chan to keep watch, and now demonic monk had come back to find him, indicating that certainly someone was coming. He wanted to see which troublemakers were actually coming. At this moment, outside the pharmacy, the assassin sent by the second young master was hiding in the trees. Noticing that Go-chan, who should be protecting his master closely, was instead keeping watch outside, the assassin speculated that the third young master must be hiding something, and took the opportunity to sneak into the room while Jong was asleep. Just as he was about to check whether the third young master really had lost his martial arts, the assassin was surprised to see the secret manuals of Mock Sword Manor laid out on the table, immediately drawn to them. After a quick look, realizing they were genuine, his hands began to tremble. If he could bring these to the second young master, the lordship would undoubtedly belong to him. However, just then, Jong's figure quietly appeared behind him, grabbing his head and fiercely smashing it into the table. Once, twice, 3 times. Jong's expression was cold. What brings you to my bedroom? Are you also here to sleep? The assassin was shocked, not expecting to have been outmaneuvered by a kid. But before he could say anything, Jong's movements grew more violent, and soon the assassin lost consciousness. When the assassin opened his eyes again, he found himself hanging upside down from the ceiling beam. Jong smirked coldly, his hand fiercely stabbing into the floor. Should we have a proper talk now? After subduing the assassin, hearing some noise, Go-chan quickly pushed open the door and saw the man lying on the floor. He recognized him at once as Cho Il-sang, a close aide of the second young master. The second son? Why would he be here? I'm not sure, but considering he's wearing a mask, he couldn't have any good intentions. Go-chan advised, the second young master always values talent. I would advise you best not to act rashly. But Jong didn't care. He simply carried Cho Il-sang on his back and turned to leave. Seeing Jong not listening to Go-chan, he lay on the floor and shouted, "Damn it, I don't care anymore. He won't kill him though, right? Even if he's reckless, he's smart." Go-chan talked to himself, but the thought of what Jong did with the manor master made him nervous. He won't kill him, right? When Cho Il-sang woke up, he found himself hanging upside down from the beam. Facing Jong's sharp gaze, he still spoke arrogantly. "I belong to the second young master. If he finds out how you've treated me, he will make sure you pay dearly." After saying this, he arrogantly demanded Jong hand over the secret manual. In return, I might speak well of you in front of the second young master, perhaps even sparing your life. Jong merely smiled slightly, then pulled out a dagger from his pocket. It seems the second brother really cherishes his subordinates. You're in such a state, yet you can still boast about his authority. Saying this, Jong untied Cho Il-sang. Seeing this, Cho Il-sang thought the other party had compromised. Just as he felt a stroke of luck, Jong's face showed a cold smile, and he asked coldly, "Whose fingers are these?" Cho Il-sang's face filled with terror and confusion. It was clearly his own fingers, yet he felt no pain at all. It turned out that Jong had already used a paralysis poison on him. The affected would feel nothing in their body for 2 hours. Hearing this, Cho Il-sang panicked. Jong sneered, "All right, from now on, for every question I ask, if you don't answer, I'll cut off one of your fingers every second. First, what was the purpose of the second brother sending you here?" Cho Il-sang was so frightened that he couldn't react in time. As he hesitated, Jong's dagger easily sliced off his fingers. In an instant, Cho Il-sang was left with almost no fingers. When Jong was about to chop off the last thumb, Cho Il-sang finally came to his senses from the fear and hurriedly begged for mercy. Cho Il-sang quickly explained that he was ordered to investigate whether Jong had really lost his martial arts. Hearing this, Jong fell into thought, surmising that Guard Cam had already sided with the second young master. He then asked again, "Was it Guard Cam who told you?" Cho Il-sang affirmed. Seeing the calculating young man in front of him, Cho Il-sang did not expect that just a few words would reveal Guard Cam's betrayal. This made him wonder if he had fallen into their scheme from the start. However, at this moment, he could no longer afford to think so much. As he sensed a strong murderous intent from Zhang, he desperately shouted, begging Zhang to spare him and swearing loyalty to the third young master, willing to do anything for his life. Just then, Zhang suddenly changed his previously vicious demeanor and showed a friendly smile. I happen to have a favor to ask of you. Can you help me now? Hearing this, Cho Ilsang, like grasping at a lifeline, eagerly thanked Zhang for sparing his life. As long as it's an order from the third young master, I will accomplish it. As soon as the words left his mouth, a dagger pierced straight through his neck. You said you were willing to risk your life. Zhang cut his neck, his blood splattering. Zhang then looked at Cho Ilsang coldly and said, then I'll borrow your blood for a bit. The reason Zhang did this was to remove the prayer beads sealed on the magic book. He learned from the ancient book Yinyang family that righteous objects could seal evil ones, meaning that the blood of a wrongfully killed person might break the seal. Thus, he dripped Cho Ilsang's blood on the magic book. In just a moment, the prayer beads on the book began to shatter bit by bit. As Zhang pondered what was sealed within the book, the blood in the box began to churn violently. The blood spread all around, and above the magic book, a cocoon formed by countless vapors of blood coalesced. When the entity within the cocoon hatched, the entire space was engulfed by a sea of blood. Just then, a slender jade leg stepped out from the sea of blood, and a beautiful woman dressed in red slowly walked towards Zhang. The aura she emitted far surpassed that of a green spirit. According to the records of the Yinyang family ancient book, there is a fifth level of ghost spirit, blue spirit. At this moment, Zhang was unsure whether he was lucky or unfortunate. The woman issued a cold command from her lips, kneel. A mysterious pressure swept over, and Zhang's body was forcibly pressed to the ground, unable to move. Foolish human, hand over your soul to me. As a vengeful spirit dead for over a century, a blue spirit of this kind usually requires a minimum of 10 Taoist masters to subdue. At that moment, Zhang slowly rose, finally experiencing the danger described in the book. He scoffed, saying, it seems the book wasn't wrong. Indeed, a very dangerous entity. Seeing Zhang manage to stand, the woman in red couldn't help but take an interest in him. Zhang did not give up resisting and even provocatively said, just a ghost spirit without a body. You can't really do anything. Hearing this, the woman in red smirked. If you want my body, you'll have to take it by force. As soon as the words fell, the woman in red gently lifted her hand, and blood immediately gushed from the ground, forming sharp blades that pierced directly through Zhang's abdomen, leaving a deep gash. Zhang fell to the ground with a thud, but the woman in red did not stop there. A second blood spear rushed out mercilessly, destroying half of Zhang's face. The woman in red sneered. Do you realize now? There's nothing you can do. Zhang spat out blood, the intense pain causing his body to tremble involuntarily, yet he never yielded. Seeing this, the woman in red was shocked. Such a fragile human, why not just hand over your soul willingly? However, Zhang before her remained resolute, clearly no ordinary person. Thus, the woman in red waved her hand again, flinging Zhang harshly against the beam on the roof. Mortal, I offer you a proposal. If you agree to give up your soul, I will grant you one wish. Faced with the woman in red's proposal, Zhang hesitated. Clearly, she had the upper hand. Why would she make such an offer? The woman in red explained, continuing to fight might harm your soul, which would be of no benefit to me. What if I refuse? If you refuse, I will show no mercy and kill you, then find another suitable soul. Hearing this, Zhang sneered, indicating he indeed had one wish. The woman in red immediately became excited, eagerly asking, has someone betrayed you, or has someone killed a loved one? Whoever it is, I can obliterate them. So tell me now, your desire. However, Zhang scoffed, my wish is for you to shut up and then obediently become my familiar. This response completely infuriated the woman in red. She decided to let this foolish mortal taste the agony of having his bones sliced and flesh shredded. The woman in red waved her hand again, and countless blood-colored spikes shot out like arrows, instantly tearing Zhang's body into pieces. At the same time, Zhang's soul seemed to plunge into an endless sea of blood, his body sinking deeper and deeper. Zhang felt that the blood sea around him was different from any blood he had encountered before. Previously, the lively blood was full of vitality, warmth, and the breath of life. But now, all he felt was the cold of death. At that moment, he suddenly opened his eyes, easily shattering the illusion. Countless cracks appeared, and the barrier instantly shattered, the terrifying shockwave also flinging the woman in red away. Zhang emerged from the illusion unharmed. The woman in red's face was full of shock, unable to accept that Zhang could so easily break through her illusions, but she was not willing to give up, waving her hand to again materialize a blood-colored butterfly that slowly flew towards Zhang. As the blood-colored butterfly approached, it sliced a wound across his face, yet Zhang did not even blink, continuing to stand there composedly. The woman in red was once again shocked. Her illusions, which even a top Taoist master might not be able to break, had been easily shattered by Zhang. Could this be a natural talent he was born with? Just then, Zhang suddenly burst into laughter, which made the woman in red grit her teeth in anger. She coldly said, even if you have broken the illusion, do you think you can change the situation at hand? Zhang responded with a sneer, I just remembered something amusing. The woman in red appeared somewhat flustered, especially when she looked at the human skin magic book that sealed her, realizing that the other party had discovered her weakness. Indeed, the more ancient mention a spirit, the more it requires a medium to inhabit, and this book was precisely her medium. In that instant, Jong opened his mouth wide and began frantically tearing at the book cover. Simultaneously, lines of blood emerged on the woman in red's body. She stood aghast as her power began to overflow. She couldn't believe that Jong had actually torn the book cover. That book was filled with demonic energy, and even a top shaman couldn't destroy it. They could only seal it temporarily, but now this brat had damaged it. The woman in red, frenzied, lunged at Jong, grasping his neck tightly, with only one thought in mind: to end Jong's life as quickly as possible. However, Jong continued to chew on the book cover, asking the woman perplexedly, "Why didn't you simply take this human skin book?" In reality, he had already deduced the truth. The woman in red couldn't touch this eerie book at all. The woman in red, teeth clenched in anger, threatened Jong to spit out the book immediately. At the same time, the blood energy within him began to surge, his body feeling as if it would burst apart like the first time he ingested poison. Spit it out. However, what Jong felt at this moment was not only the physical pain, but also the profound anger from the depths of the ghost spirit's heart. This rage far surpassed the physical pain. It was a burning desire for revenge. The woman in red cursed Jong as a madman, her hands tightly clutching his throat, causing him to spit out fresh blood. At this moment, as their gazes met, the memories of the woman in red flooded into Jong's mind like a torrent. The next second, Jong found himself in a completely unfamiliar environment, surrounded by corpses and rivers of blood. Just then, Jong found the woman in red. The severely wounded woman in red was struggling desperately. She tore off the cloth from her body, tightly wrapping her hands and sword together, the tip of the sword pointing directly at the man on the throne. Although Jong couldn't hear what they were saying, he could feel the deep hatred and despair. Jong clearly felt the towering rage in the woman in red's heart. The man on the throne looked down on her from above, which only fueled her anger further. She exerted all her strength and charged at the man. However, in just one round, the man's palm pierced through the woman in red's chest, even ripping her heart out directly. Powerlessly, the woman in red fell at the foot of the stairs. As she fell, numerous figures gathered around her, pointing their weapon directly at her. Her eyes filled with despair as she helplessly watched numerous figures stabbing into her body with weapons. Jong witnessed all these events unfolding. The woman in red couldn't even leave behind a complete body. She was ultimately made into this eerie human skin magic book. Meanwhile, Jong suddenly awoke from the memory, surprised to find a red thread on his chest, connecting him tightly to the woman in red. Suddenly, the woman burst into tears, her tears flowing like water breaking through a dam. She had become Jong's familiar. Jong sighed in relief, thinking, "I got myself a blue ghost. This has to be a dream." The woman in red called out to Jong. Anger swiftly consumed her rationality, and she frantically slapped Jong's neck, demanding he immediately release the contract. However, the next second, a deep handprint shockingly appeared on her own neck. A sudden feeling of suffocation overwhelmed the woman in red. She was both furious and frustrated, yet helpless. Eventually, she angrily turned away, sulking in a corner alone. This scene, observed by Jong, led him to an epiphany. Apparently, a familiar shares the pain with its master. This made him think of Demonic Monk. Having endured so much pain before, what was it going through now? At this moment, Demonic Monk was standing pitifully outside, all its previous suffering reflected upon it. Yet, without Jong's command, it could only silently endure the pain. Meanwhile, the woman in red gradually calmed down, and the atmosphere briefly became awkward. Seeing that she was not planning to engage with him, Jong took the initiative to speak up. "Since we're going to be together from now on, shouldn't we get to know each other's names? My name is Mok Jaewoon." However, the woman in red remained icy. Seeing this, Jong decided to use his last resort. "Well then, from now on, I'll just call you Red Dung Betel." The woman in red was both panicked and furious, furiously scolding Jong. "Are you out of your mind? How dare you mock me?" Hearing this, Jong laughed heartily, thinking to himself that his strategy had worked successfully, provoking a reaction from her. "It seems you're not too happy about it." The woman in red, rendered speechless by Jong's antics, and still unwilling to reveal her identity due to her pride, declared, "You ants are not worthy of knowing my name." Jong chuckled at her stubbornness and casually gave her a name, given her level as a blue spirit. "Then from now on, I shall call you Blue Spirit," Jong said offhandedly. The woman in red huffed and turned her head away, disdainfully ignoring him. Jong sighed lightly, thinking to himself, "I didn't expect this woman to have such strong pride. It's really troublesome since I can't defeat her by force. It looks like I'll have to slowly persuade her to like me." Moments later, Jong turned his attention back to the human skin magic book and asked, "Blue Spirit, do you know what's inside this?" The woman in red still acted uninterested, waving her hand to indicate she was busy and didn't want to talk. Left with no choice, Jong began to read the contents of the magic book himself. Although it was disorganized, he found it quite intriguing. His serious demeanor gradually caught the woman in red's attention. She thought he was just casually browsing, but the next second, Jong accurately recited the incantation written on it. As soon as the incantation was recited, a strange power flowed into Jong's body, and his hand holding the magic book stuck to the human skin pages. The woman in red was shocked, unable to believe what she saw. "How did you do?" Jong, puzzled, didn't understand what had happened. Just as he was feeling confused, a surge of dark energy suddenly appeared, sword and began to corrode his body. The woman in red, sensing danger, urgently exclaimed, "Little devil, hold your breath immediately, empty your mind, think of nothing." Following her instructions, Zhang held his breath and focused, and gradually, the sinister black energy stabilized. At the same time, with a thud, the magic book that had stuck to his hand fell to the ground. The woman in red was profoundly shaken, not expecting Zhang to so easily unravel the ritual of attachment. A person without martial arts skills possessing such an ability was unexpected. At this moment, the woman in red unprecedentedly showed a hint of a smile. She had not witnessed such a miracle during her life and never expected to see such a thing after death. This young man truly was a prodigy. After escaping the danger, Zhang collapsed onto the ground, his face full of confusion. What exactly happened just now? The woman in red explained, "It's because you couldn't control the ritual of attachment properly, and there was a problem with your breathing during the process." Zhang didn't miss a chance to tease her. "So you're finally willing to talk to me seriously?" The woman hurriedly explained, "I was just afraid you would mess things up and get me involved." "So, what exactly is this ritual of attachment?" Zhang continued to inquire. "It's a technique that can generate a pulling force through the energy in the body," the woman in red answered. Zhang became even more puzzled. "Then why do I feel a stomach ache and tightness in my veins?" "This is because you were pulling at nothing, leading to the reversal of the energy inside your body and causing your breath to become utterly chaotic." After explaining, the woman in red instructed Zhang to try it on Cho Il-sang's body. She then directed Zhang to position Cho Il-sang's body properly. "Now, repeat the same method on this person." Zhang chanted the incantation, and a strong suction force appeared on his palm again, but this time, he felt a warm breath flowing through his veins and converging towards his energy core. "It seems you have grasped the essence of it. This is the ritual of attachment, which can absorb the energy of all things, including qi. That is how the ritual of attachment works."